Hello?
Ken, is that you calling in by phone?
Hello, this is Ken Nowak joining a meeting for agenda item number 2.
Okay, Ken, just hold on till we get to that item then. Thanks.
Thank you.
There, I'll repeat myself. Call to order the July 22nd, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Flicker, Commissioner Britton, Commissioner Arasi,
Here.
Commissioner Sheard,
Here.
Commissioner Helen,
Here.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Here.
and Chairperson Durling.
Here. Okay, will everyone rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of America, for which it stands, one nation.
Okay, this is the time where if you have an item that it's not on the agenda that you want to bring up, it's time to do it. We can't take any action or anything, so seeing no one, we'll
Oh,
continue.
hang on. We do have one speaker, Brian Wong.
Oh, you didn't stand. I didn't see a hand raised. Now, you understand we cannot take any action.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't do these very often at Planning Commission, so I was a little confused. Sorry. So anyway, to introduce myself, my name is Brian Wong. I'm a business owner downtown, also a property owner. I also sit on the board of the Oroville Downtown Business Association and also a board member on the Oroville Chamber of Commerce. So I've been doing a lot of studying on downtowns and older cities like ours. And I also watch a lot of business news to watch trends and how Oroville can improve ourselves. So one of the recent things that I've learned was some of the malls that's been really affected by like Amazon and COVID and everything else that's been struggling. Actually, they're doing better because they're actually using the formula of downtowns. So downtowns for quite many years now, they've actually been doing well because they're not affected by Amazon as much. So when studying some of these downtown formulas, there are certain things that downtowns are doing that are positive and successful, and there are certain things that are not. So there's definitely like a certain formula that people follow to make downtowns vibrant. So because of what I'm trying to do, I always like listen to what's going on in the community, especially here in Oroville, and what's going on. So it was brought to my attention recently that where the Oroville Convention Center is, there's been consideration for a handicap ramp. And I believe it was going to be put in where the fountain is right now. So I don't know whether my source was correct in stating that, but I just want to kind of like, speak out that we need to give that more thought because that's the focal point of the whole downtown.
Oh, can we allow him to keep going?
Yeah, you've run out of time, but we get the point, we get the message. And I don't know if anything's coming up in the near future about all of that.
That's actually the project I'm working on. So, Brian, we can get together on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes.
together with
Yes.
staff and.
Yeah, that's a very important focal point for a major street, which is Meyer Street looking down. At one time, there used to be a beautiful arch there. So I think, for the betterment of Oroville, we really need to look at the end there because as you're standing on the street, all the
We
attention.
got the message.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We don't have anyone else?
That is the last speaker.
Okay. Now it's time I open this session of the Planning Commission. If, we only have 3 people here. If any of you want to talk, did you fill out, or could you fill out a blue sheet and give it to the clerk? That way we know a record of who you are, if we need to get back to you or whatever, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, they're all here relating to projects, so we have their names and contact information
Okay.
and everything.
Okay. Then we'll go on to first agenda item, minor use permit for alcohol sales. Staff?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, Connor Musler is here from his vacation spot in Hawaii, and he will make the presentation. Connor, is that over to you?
Yes, yes. Good evening, Commissioners. Nice, Matt. Good evening, Commissioners. Connor Musler, Assistant Planner. This item is a minor use permit for alcohol sales at the recently opened Mis Reinas Carniceria at 1933 Oro Dam Boulevard, Suite E. The market and restaurant are located in the Oro Plaza Shopping Center in the former Chinese Buffet and Blueberry Twist Restaurant Suite. City code requires that all alcohol sales in the city receive a use permit prior to conducting sales. The applicant is applying for 2 different ABC licenses. The first is a type 41 for beer and wine sales for on-site consumption in the restaurant. The second is a type 20 license for beer and wine sales for off-site consumption to be sold in the market like other grocery stores within the city. Within the immediate vicinity of the Carniceria, there are 3 establishments that sell alcoholic beverages. 2 of them are for on-site consumption within a restaurant, and 1 is for off-sale. Should the Commission approve the use permit, staff is also asking for approval to preemptively send a letter of public convenience or necessity to ABC should it be determined that an over-concentration exists within this census tract. This item was reviewed by the DRC on July 8th. Krista Garitano and store owner Marcelino Heredia are here to answer any questions that the Commission may have. Staff recommends approval of this item.
Any questions of staff? Open the public hearing for the item. Is there someone that wants to make a presentation? Watch the clock. Oh, okay. I guess there is a clock. No, there isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, when it's out, okay. My name is Marcelino Heredia, and I am sorry. I am the owner of Carniceria Mis Reinas, 1933 Oro Dam Boulevard. I am also the owner of Las Reinas in Calusa, California. So I've started this since 2016. I took over from a family-owned business. I used to run my cattle. That's all I did before, I jumped into this. My cousin offered me the opportunity. I jumped in, and I started actually providing my cattle to the meat company that provides us now the food. Okay, and just wanted to tell you guys basically a little bit of where that has came from is Cottonwood, Red Bluff, to Calusa, and out to Oroville. Since I have family that live here and always been coming here for a good while, we needed one. We really needed one here. So I'm here to say that basically I know a little bit of what needs to, happen here in this area with, if you guys give me that right to beer and wine and all that. A little bit of experience for having the other one, but other than that, just wanted to say hi to all and any questions if you guys needed.
Any questions of the applicant? I've got one.
Yes, sir.
How many cattle? I'm a former cattle guy.
Well,
How many head?
right now, we were running 160 head, but that all cut down since last year.
That's why I asked. It's been hit pretty hard.
Yeah, since last year, since all this started, we actually had to drop and sell what we can, and our consumer, which is the people that provide that for us, was going to stop too because of their productivity level going down too.
Well,
So
yeah.
it was taking longer for me to feed, to gain them, and actually just feed and not getting no profit off of it.
That's why I asked. I just feel for, I was basically born and raised on the back of a horse and chasing cows and calves. And,
Yeah, well, I didn't use
so
horses, but I would run after them, yes. Since we were
Okay.
little.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, I have a question.
I have-
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
we have a
sorry.
couple more questions, I
Okay.
think.
I don't have anything that tells me anymore.
It says here that you're gonna have a 2,052 square foot restaurant and a 3,400 square
There we
foot
go.
market. Is that right?
Yes, well, I don't have any way to show it, but where it was prior existing, if you guys remember the Chinese buffet, right? It had a big kitchen in the back, and I don't know exact footage. And in the front, which was the service area where you would sit down, all the tables and everything, that got converted into the meat market area. All that, all the products and everything we have out there got filled up there. The restaurant area continued the same. We prep our food, we do everything, and that's what we do all our orders. I should have brought this myself.
So I
On
was in there.
page 18 of your agenda packet shows the floor
On
plan.
18? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I can't read the numbers.
Okay.
So your question,
So where it says, no, because I was in there on Monday,
Yes.
Nice Market.
Yes.
And I just saw, you walk in and you got the big market, and then you have the meat counters where you're selling, then you have the, behind there where the kitchen is, and then you have this other little market area alongside where the restrooms go, where the drinks were and the stuff on the shelves.
Yes.
So is that part gonna be converted into a restaurant?
No, the general idea of it was the patio area.
Because that's on there is like 300 square feet of area.
Yeah, the patio area
You're
right
right.
there. Did you see yeah, that's the area. We basically want our customers to be able to serve our customers there.
So you're not gonna have indoor dining?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a taqueria style. pick up and go or take out, sit. We just wanted to have a general area where people could come and sit down and enjoy our food if they wanted to stay there and keep ordering or any little thing.
Okay.
So
And you're keeping that gate up?
I want to, yes.
Okay.
I think I could put, well, I want to keep it for now because I want to add, just like there is a TV out there to have better, something fun for the customers and all that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
I would like to keep it, yeah.
All right, so then it's basically this 5,000 square foot store, and then the dining's
Yes,
outside.
yes.
Okay. That was my question.
Someone else have a question?
I do. I did the right thing, so I'm actually right there
Oh,
now.
really?
So finally, sorry, I didn't do that. I think it's such a great idea. Thank you for doing it. I think it's a wonderful
does that
thing that
work?
we need. And I do think it's neat, the images that you did of the butcher images on the front. I like that too. I was wondering when you were going to be able to finish painting it and get a sign and maybe some plants just to make it
Oh, yes.
presentable.
Actually, my mom and dad put some plants, well, in the patio area.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and we did white rock there already. The painting, I do have on file, or, well, I don't think I've submitted anything yet, but I do have a company, Ace Plumbing and Construction. I'm in their agenda, and I think they said next week out, because they were gonna go and put electric and something like that. They were getting everything ready. They've been booked, supposedly. But I have that already
Wonderful.
in motion. Yes, I already have in writing everything, how much is it gonna be and everything.
And do you have your sign designed?
Magoon signs and Chico, but if I'm gonna
Okay.
do that again, I need to wait until, they are painted and then put it up, yes.
Okay.
It's a little bit backed up on everything supposedly, so.
I understand. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
I don't see anything down here. Okay,
Well, thank you, guys.
any discussion? Close the hearing. It's up to the planning commissioners. You have a discussion or ready for a motion, or what do you want to do?
Mr. Chairman, the consultant that's getting the alcohol permit on behalf of this client may want to speak. I'm not sure. Krista, did you want to speak?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm here just to answer any questions. I think Marcelina did a pretty good job as far as presenting, the store and his ideas. But I'm here just to answer any other, questions you may have. I know you guys were going to start, your discussion. I did originally raise my hand, but I think it was, like I said, a little late, and then Marcelina jumped in. So I'm okay unless you guys have any other questions that I can assist with.
No questions?
Yeah, I got one. Oh.
Okay.
Have you addressed any of the safety concerns with the landlord that were brought up during the DRC?
I did speak with Marcelino about it. I know that what he has implemented, and it was something that I was going to speak upon. But since you asked, as far as security, it is a top priority to Mr. Heredia and his family. Just to kind of touch on some of the measures that he's taken, he has equipped his location with a brand new surveillance camera system. He's dedicated to keeping his video recordings on site for at least 30 days. All of his cash registers will be equipped with age verification devices for those to not only request the ID, but check for its validity. As far as I know there was a question with the loitering, outside. He does have a system in place where his employees monitor the exterior premise, to make sure that there isn't anyone, directly in front of his property. If there is, they get a manager involved, which is normally one of the owners or his family members, to go ahead and ask the individual to leave immediately. Depending on their reaction, there is an on-site security guard in the shopping area that they get involved to help rectify that. But again, I did talk with Marcelina, and he's still there. You know, he can kind of attest to this, that as some of the concerns that you raised, you know, were, you know, some that he is on board with. But obviously getting the property owner to kind of act on it, you know, is easier sometimes said than done.
Right,
He
so
is
have
making his, you know, attempts, you know, at doing, you know, and making and monitoring the area and kind of clearing it out, you know, as best he could within his parameters.
So have you discussed it with the property owner?
I know that Marcelino has discussed it with the property owner.
Not the applicant, the owner of the shopping center.
I know that the applicant has spoken to the property owner directly on some of those concerns.
And they're willing to make changes to, because I mean, the loitering is just not going to affect him. It affects Mount Mike's, Big Lots, the 99-cent store, you know, the other boarded up fronts, storefronts over there. You get a lot of, you know, when I go through there, there's no less than, you know, 6 people camping, walking around with coolers and chairs. That's my concern. I think what he wants to do is great. His market's a nice market. I just think that the, you know, more discussion with the owner of the shopping center to be a little more proactive in keeping the place clean and keeping it, you know, free from loitering and a little more security would be advantageous. Thank you.
Of course, I do think that there's some discussion as far as getting additional security guards to monitor the shopping, the parking lot areas for that.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Hey, we're ready for a motion.
I motion to approve item number 1 as presented. That work?
And what about the extra piece that Connor wanted? Is it included in it as presented?
That's also included in the recommendation.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Ready to vote? Anybody want to change their vote?
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Ready for item 2? Well, I don't think, I'll be looking over to you to see if there's somebody electronically that wanna
We'll let you go.
go. I'm not too good here. You gotta remember you guys are in control.
We got you.
All right, we go on to item 2. It's sight and glance parcel at 1245 Ordan Boulevard. It's a rezoning to M2. Staff?
Yes, thank you. The project before you is a proposal to rezone a 39-acre parcel to intensive manufacturing, M2, from its current zoning of corridor mixed use, MXC. The applicant is requesting this change because they have an e-commerce warehousing prospect that would need an industrial zoning in order to be approved in Oroville. MXC does not allow warehousing, and M2 does allow warehousing. The site has historically been a lumber yard, a lumber mill. Also, a lot of heavy commercial and industrial is still there now. There's a number of buildings on the site, a number of businesses occupying the site. The applicant also requested this change, and there on the screen is an aerial photo of the property. Orodam Boulevard is at the top of the property line there, and the Ford dealership is across the street. So the site is the applicant has also requested this in 2017 by letter, but no action was taken at that time. The site is screened from Orodam Boulevard by a berm, and thus would not have much exposure to the highway, no matter what the use there. If significant truck traffic were to be generated from a future warehouse, the staff is recommending that access from the rear, from the south, be developed to Cal Oak and then south onto Highway 70, that way where most of the industrial traffic already is. We would also require a traffic analysis for any future use, significant use that came to the site. However, Caltrans has designated this as a STAA terminal route. So legally, any truck can go from Highway 70 to any terminal at this site along Highway 162. So this would all have to be worked out with a future user. There is also a former rail spur because the rail line is to the right, entire length along the right, very active rail line through town. And there was a spur, which has been removed. There is some track remaining elsewhere on the property, but that could also be replaced for an industrial use. Ken Nowak is the broker representing the applicant, and I don't know if applicant is also here on the phone. But he might want to say something as well. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council because it does require a rezone and a general plan amendment.
That it? Any questions of staff at this time? I have one. What is the setback along Orodam Boulevard?
Setbacks for manufacturing and for MXC both is 0.
So they could go right up
To
edge
the
of the berm,
edge of their
basically.
property, yes.
Yeah. And what other kind of uses are allowed
In manufacturing,
in them too?
any
Heavy uses?
any industrial use, very similar to all of the uses that are south of the project site,
Right.
including log decks and sawmills, a lumber mill, et cetera. Anything that's heavy industrial.
So the applicant could actually build a building right up to the property line on Orodam Boulevard? Right to the edge, say to the edge of the berm? The way it's zoned?
Yes, any proposed new construction would, of course, go through development review. And as I mentioned, we would require the traffic analysis for any large project. We also, the Development Review Committee and staff can also review design and have a visual analysis done to see if there's going to be problems from the highway.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we open the public hearing for this item. I guess the applicant is going to make a presentation. Yep. Is it Mr. Mosler?
Okay, am I unmuted now? If you can hear me, can somebody acknowledge this is Ken Nowak?
So we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Yes, I am Ken Noack, the broker representing the owner of the property. And we do indeed have significant interest from what I will refer to as e-commerce type users for the property. As we have all experienced through the pandemic, there has been a significant increase in the e-commerce industry in the greater Sacramento region. I am based out of Sacramento, and we are seeing any of the municipalities within the 1 hour plus or minus periphery of Sacramento and along, generally speaking, major intercontinental freeways become quite active on the land side for the development of distribution facilities, fulfillment centers, and so on and so forth. We do currently have activity and offers from what I would refer to as clean M2 uses, which would be fulfillment center distribution facilities for the property that would provide significant employment opportunities for the demographic of predominantly the Oroville, Chico region. Perhaps in the neighborhood of a couple hundred employees at least to begin with. The property has been available for sale for, I think I've been involved with it for about a decade, and the CEMX zoning designation has not necessarily attracted anybody predominantly because of the location of the property and so forth. And with the significant influx from the pandemic, the e-commerce developers, if you will, and users are very interested in locating opportunities within this region because of their proximity along the West Coast to the major freeways of I-5 and Interstate 80 and so forth. And so because the zoning precludes us from entertaining those users, we are now proposing and requesting respectfully a rezone to accommodate those types of users so that we can take a property that is essentially a non-performing asset and somewhat of blight to the community and turn it into a employment generating opportunity for the benefit of the community and those that live there, as well as the e-commerce company that wishes to locate there. With that, I'm happy to answer your questions, clarify any matters further with respect to our request.
Any questions? Any questions on the app? Okay.
Can't hear.
Oh, this mic.
Can you hear me?
Whoops.
Now I can hear you better.
I'm just asking the commissioners if they had any questions, and apparently no one has a question directed at you at
Okay,
this time.
thank you.
So, close the hearing and discussion amongst commissioners. Any questions of staff?
I guess I had a question for staff. Is there a way to zone this so that a e-commerce type place could only, warehouse could go there and not a log deck?
Exactly.
I'm not sure. I suppose since it is a general plan amendment, it could be conditioned for certain uses at that site. Typically, that's not done. It's just zoned that way.
I fear that the cleanup of the property may change the idea of what goes there.
Is that it? Anybody else? I don't see anybody on the list down here that wants to talk.
So there are ways to condition the site either through a planned unit development or a specific plan or something like that to limit the types of developments that can occur there.
Well, I think you gathered from the question I had as staff initially, but I have a problem. I think it's similar to the type of uses that could go in there and without a setback of significance. I hate to think what could be seen along Orodam Boulevard. I mean, Orodam, yeah. Orodam Boulevard East. Could be very detrimental to the other uses in the future. And I have the same question is there some way that we can limit the uses under the zone? Is there another zone that we could, like you were saying, I think, what was it, a PUD or something like that?
Yes.
That we could,
Can I speak to that?
sure.
Thank you. It's a very good question, and I'm not completely familiar with the ordinances of the city of Oroville. I do a lot of work down in the Sacramento region, and it would seem to me that with respect to the protocols that the city of Oroville has in place as a function of reviewing and approving a specific application to go on the property, there could be controls in place or conditions that could be imposed upon a specific application, even from the perspective of denying it, to mitigate any threat to any visual impairment along Orodam Boulevard, or, for example, putting in place conditions like heavy landscaping along the frontage with some sort of a setback, if that were the case. I guess my point being that it seems to me that you do already have controls in place under your jurisdiction to evaluate any specific application that would come in that suffice for avoiding the concern, the legitimate concern that you certainly have. I think in saying that, most of the interest that we have, market interest that we have in the property is warehousing of the type that I described, fulfillment centers and the like. I don't sense that we will have a long deck type of applicant, but again, it seems that the controls will be in place to at least mitigate that or further discipline what they can or cannot do on the site without having to, go into a specific plan type of mechanism or a CUP and so forth.
And though the setback is a zero lot line setback along Orodam Boulevard, we have a standing agreement with Caltrans for frontage maintenance. That would also be required here in this case. So that would be
Sure.
landscape and frontage. So that would be a part of this. So it wouldn't just be a building and no landscaping, no frontage. That frontage would be required.
But you could still have a building right up to the property line.
You could have a building up to the property line, but I think in this case that we would work with the applicant to see landscaping and frontage there. And I believe
Once we zone it to M2, a use that is permitted in the M2 zone, what restrictions can we put it? It doesn't come to us. It doesn't, legally, I don't see where you can make restrictions on that use that isn't already codified somewhere. And so what you're basically doing is carte blanche, opening the door to all sorts of uses that once you got the zoning, those uses can go in as a permitted use. Isn't that right?
yes. And I believe I'm going to defer to Matt. Matt's been itching to say something.
I couldn't hear you.
I'm going to defer to our engineer. He's been itching to say something in regards to this.
Okay.
Thank you, Don. Good evening, commissioners. First, I have a question that Wes can probably answer. I was confused about the overlay, or could an overlay be done on either the existing zoning or the current zoning to accommodate this? The other is a comment. I'm familiar with a couple similar projects in other communities, and I guarantee these corporations have absolutely no qualms about providing architecturally more pleasing walls. Instead of one long warehouse wall, they have no problem breaking them up to look like row housing or something like that. So I think we could work with them to alleviate any visual impacts we'd be worried about along a building that was right up to the property line. Thank you.
Seeing our included sheet here about the continuances, may up to the commission, but maybe this would be a good item to continue and have staff work on conditions that we could all agree on.
I could chime in real quick for Wes and the commission. City code does allow a conditional overlay to be imposed on a zoning designation. This adds more restrictions than what is allowed in the traditional zoning. So as you had mentioned, the M2 zoning with the conditional overlay, that is enacted by the city council. That adds a more strict what can be allowed, what things go along with that. It's a sort of a planned unit development, but more of just that conditions specifying certain things. That's within our code. That is an option as well.
So Connor?
Yes.
Could a condition be that a wide range of utes would need a use permit in that overlay so that the council would and the commission would still be able to have a final say in that?
That is a possibility, yes. A use permit can be required for all or most uses ordinarily allowed as of right within that zoning designation. And it's up to city council to further specify any other conditions they want.
I think we do need to continue. I'd like to see something like that in writing before us so that we make a logical recommendation to the city council. Does that make sense? Commissioners?
Oh, my question was, so the maximum height is 65 feet?
That's correct.
So they could, under this current zoning, have a 65-foot high warehouse right at the edge of the property line?
Yes,
So basically zero lot line right up to the road?
unless conditioned as Connor or in a number of ways that can be done, yeah.
So,
But additionally, in the existing zoning, it could be a 60-foot high building with a 0 lot line.
currently,
Currently.
Yes,
The bottom line is, you can have a building up to the property line with, once this is approved, and they meet all the technical requirements, they can put a building right up to the property line, 60 feet tall, of any design. And so I think that, somebody suggested that we have, going along with this project, a overlay, what do you want to call it?
Conditioned overlay?
Conditioned overlay. And we need to have that come back to us. That's my opinion. We need to have that come back to us so we can see that and make it part of the recommendation to the city council.
okay. The applicant, Steve Seidenglantz, has joined us as well. I don't know if he wants to say anything. It's up to you, Mr. Chair.
I want to hear from everybody. Steve, do you have anything to say? Is he on?
Not at this time, thank you.
Steve?
Yes, I have nothing to say at this time.
So if the applicant is amenable and there's a motion from the chair, staff can take this back under advisement and invoke this conditional overlay code and come back with a recommendation for a setback along the highway and potentially some recommendations about uses that would be conditioned or that would be prohibited, and bring that back to the commission.
What would be the time frame for the process here with bringing this back to the commission?
The August 26th meeting is the next planning commission meeting.
Okay, could we be on that agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that would give you time to work with staff to come up with something agreeable to, as an overlay, conditional overlay. And would that include a use permit requirement?
That could include the use permit requirement.
Anyway, that's my recommendation, that we continue this item under those conditions and see the item back to us on August what?
26th.
August 26th. So I'm ready for a motion and a second.
Does that need to be motion? Did that need to be motion
Staff
or
would
just
be happier
recommended?
with a motion, yeah.
Yeah.
I make a motion for what Carl asked.
To continue the item and bring it back with some recommended conditions on August 26th.
Yes.
I second that.
Is that a second?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Will the applicant be able to see the conditions before our meeting, or will they just be seeing the conditions at our next meeting?
Oh, we hide everything. No, the applicant will be well aware of
That's
the
just what I wanted
conditions,
to make
yeah.
sure.
Does anyone want to change their vote? Seeing none,
Motion carries with 5 yeses and 2 absent.
hey. Thank you for joining us, you guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Go to item 3.
Yes, Commissioners, I'll start this, and then our city engineer, Matt, may weigh in to correct anything that I misstate. This is a tentative parcel map waiver for Olive Ranch 3. And as you know, Olive Ranch 1 and 2 were approved by the Development Review Committee by right. And Phase 1 is under construction. Phase 2 is likely to start construction in September. And this map enables Phase 3, which was approved by the DRC at its last meeting. So this parcel map waiver is part of the set of actions that have been completed in order to facilitate development of the 3 phases. And up on the screen, the lot lines are not accurate. I just drew trapezoidal lot lines. The actual lot lines are as in your packets. Phase 3 has been submitted to the state for approval for 9% tax credits for senior affordable housing. The first 2 phases are family affordable housing. So you can see on page 47 of your packet, the map waiver map. Parcel X would essentially be Phase 3. That's one of the ones there. The Oroville Municipal Code allows a map waiver under certain circumstances. Yes, that one. The next one, number 2. That one there. Yeah, rotate. So parcel X is at the bottom on the right, at the end of that new cul-de-sac which will be built. Phil Strawn is here from Modern Builders. If you have any questions, and Matt is here also, maybe to add anything that he wants to.
Any questions of staff at this time? Open the hearing for item 2. Applicant is here and wants to make a presentation. There you go. Now you're on.
All right, Phil Strawn with Modern Building. We are the general contractor, and then I'm also part of the development team. As Wes had said, phases 1 is under construction. You can see the progress we've made to date. Phase 2, we are on track for a September 1 start is our goal. Phase 3, we knock on wood. The initial results from the state tax credit rounds have been released, and it looks like Phase 3 is going to be awarded funding. So we would be looking forward to start that as soon as we can. I'm guessing we'd tentatively be targeting a spring 22 start on Phase 3. And then we even have some plans for row housing to start along the hillside, either simultaneously with Phase 3 or after Phase 3 for market rate row housing. So we're looking to extend that Tuscany Villa drive down and around as a way of accessing all that area back in there, and trying to improve that ridge and add some housing.
Any questions of the applicant?
Will the row housing, will that be a subdivision, or will that be, what kind of housing will that be?
We're looking right now, we're considering 1-inch air gap, 2-story townhome styles. It would be a entry-level house for entry-level buyers. They would be, like I said, 1-inch air gap. We haven't fully assessed the amount of houses we could fit along that ridge, but the goal would be that they'd have a second-story deck that comes out over the hillside there. You can see the fish hatchery, the dam, the Table Mountain, downtown Oroville, the river. We think they'd be pretty desirable for entry-level homes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah. Eric?
So the townhomes are rentals, or they're?
Oh, no, for sale, market rate
sale.
for sale. And we'd be willing to work with the city of Oroville for any kind of economic processes they have that could help new home buyers as well. And I guess I don't want you to make your decision off of the townhomes, because it is something we're still further out on trying to get our hands around and how we want to do it. But right now the goal is to try and get Phase 3, the senior housing, kicked off in the right direction and get the property set for that. And then we'd look to do a subdivision map that lays out the townhomes. And at that point, I imagine we'd be back in front of you guys to present that as it's more developed.
Okay, so this is not part of the tax credit property that you're doing? This is
the market
completely
rate,
separate?
Yeah, the market rate housing would be completely privately financed
Private
by
developed.
us. Yes.
That would be a separate subdivision.
Yes.
Completely.
Well, I'm not sure on the language there if it's a separate subdivision, but it would not be part of either of these projects or developments.
Well, if you're going to sell homes,
Yes, it'd be its own subdivision, I guess. Yes.
you're going to be doing a subdivision.
Yes.
And give you a heads up warning, one of my concerns would be what's visible from across the river looking at the bluff, which is nothing but trees at the time. And I don't have a problem with homes necessarily, but aesthetically, it's going to be important.
Sure thing, and I'd expect those that process to go through the full
Oh, yeah.
DRC and whatever hearings that Wes tells me I have to go to get approval.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll close the public hearing on this item. Thank you. Turn it over to the commissioners. Any discussion, questions, further questions of staff, whatever? Seeing none, I'm ready for a motion.
We do have one speaker.
What?
I have a speaker.
We have a speaker.
I looked over there.
I know. He put his hand up after, I'm sorry.
Okay, who is it?
Matt, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry if I got the protocol wrong. I just want to make sure the commission understood the process here, because it hasn't been done in Oroville for quite a while. The Subdivision Map Act provides generally subdivision maps and parcel maps with 3 basic functions: to create lots, ensure that the public interests such as infrastructure and CEQA are taken care of, and to provide efficient record keeping of lot creation as we move forward. It can be a time-consuming process, so there is a process Most communities call it a minor land division. We don't have that. Here we call it a waiver of parcel map. It creates the same thing. All of those boxes will be checked, but the lots will be created by separate deed, and then a record of survey will be recorded later. It can be a quicker process, but it actually ends up being a lot more work for the proponent's engineer. So I just want to make sure everybody understood the process because we haven't done it in a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Anybody else over here?
We're good.
I'm learning. Okay, we're back to a motion in a second.
I would make a motion, but I gotta figure out where the paper is to say it.
If you're not going to add anything, you could just move the staff recommendation.
I move to accept staff recommendation on this item.
Keep it simple. Kiss it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we flip up the voting?
I don't think there was a second.
Huh?
We need a second.
Oh, I thought
I second that.
somebody seconded. It now has a motion and a second. Anyone want to change their vote? No one wants to change their vote?
Motion carries with 5 yeses and 2 absent.
Motion carries. Thank you. Look forward to seeing progress.
Yeah, we have one more.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3. Or item
4?
4. Oh, we're going faster than I. Item 4 is a zoning code change to allow appellants a specific response time. Somebody's going to explain that to us, staff?
Yes, indeed. We'll try. As you know, there were 2 projects that this commission denied that were both appealed to City Council. And when City Council heard the appeals, there was some question and confusion about how much time the appellant was to be allotted to present their case. And they were initially allowed 2 minutes to present their case, which was considered inadequate. And then the city attorney chimed in, and the appellants eventually got 10 minutes apiece. But the city council is now asked to codify that appellants will be given time to present their case. And the proposed change to the Oroville City Code 17.56.100 is that either at the Planning Commission, because appeals can be made to the Planning Commission for denials by a zoning administrator, appellant shall be allowed 20 minutes to present their case, up to 20 minutes to present their case, and then another 10 minutes to rebut any remarks that might be made during other testimony. So that's the proposal. This would be a zoning ordinance change. It is initiated by council, but our code requires the Planning Commission to make a recommendation to council for, since it affects Title 17, the zoning code.
And it has nothing in it about the planning commission's time to be able to speak.
Yes, it does. Under A, appeals to the Planning Commission, on page 68 of your packet.
Oh, we get, I see.
This Planning Commission would, if this were codified,
Okay.
then must allow any appellant
The same time.
to the same amount of time.
Thank you, I see that.
Don't know if ever an appellant has come to the planning commission, but it does happen on occasion.
You're just saying the appellant, okay, wait, I'm talking about at the city council meeting when they are overturning our decision because it's being appealed. Does the planning commission have a voice more than 2 minutes?
The code is silent on the planning commission. That is typically up to the chair, the mayor, to determine how much time the planning commission should be given to present their case.
Is there a way that that can be known before you get to the meeting, before the planning? It just seems a bit unfair to not know how long you're allowed to speak. It's unclear. It would be better to have that clearly spelled out.
Yes, if I recall, you were anticipating 2 minutes, but you were given longer. Is that?
Well, at the one, I anticipated longer, and I had to cut it to 2, and at the second one, I could speak longer, and I didn't have it prepared. So it would have been nice to be prepared, and I think people volunteer on this commission. It would be nice for them to be able to speak to the city council also when they're going to overturn their decisions or consider overturning our recommendations.
Okay, there's several ways that we can approach this. One is to talk to the mayor and to the council. They do have the complete discretion on how much time would be allowed. And the other is for this planning commission to actually recommend that be codified as well.
We are hoping that appeals do not become a regular.
What was that?
I said we are hoping that appeals do not become a regular thing, though.
I have heard they are in other jurisdictions. I have heard it's almost just what happens. The planning commission votes no, and they appeal it, and it gets approved. Now, that could not be accurate. So if this is what we're up for, I mean, it's rare. Hopefully, we don't say no.
It's
very
rare.
often.
Yeah, I think we've had more appeals in the last year than we've had in 10 years, so.
I still think something should be codified, personally, for when it does come up. That's my opinion.
Counting my time working for the city of Sacramento, about 25 years, and I wouldn't say it's rare to get overturned, but it happens often enough that I think what you're talking about is important. And that's planning commission to have a commissioners or chair or whoever does it, an opportunity to speak at least as much time as given the applicant. I'm not sure, do we include that? I'm not sure what action we're supposed to take on this either. That was my other thing. Are we making a recommendation to the city council?
Yes, the code requires a recommendation of one, of some type be forwarded to the city council for consideration.
So okay, so we're making a recommendation that the city council adopt this change to the code. And we can include in that recommendation what we think should be included in the code, like.
So we
how much
could add
time?
the condition to B, appeals to city council under item 3, or even make an item 4 that the planning commission should be allowed 10 minutes to provide explanation of the appeal to city council.
But staff would write that up, and that would be,
That would be the recommendation to
the
city
city
council
council.
from the planning commission
yes.
for this ordinance.
Okay.
That's correct.
So, Dawn, so the 20 minutes, is that the applicant by himself, or is that if he has other people?
If they have other people
If they have other
as
people,
well.
so they all have to fit in that 20-minute
Yes.
window?
The way our city attorney had explained it was that the applicant and anybody representing the applicant has
The
the 20 minutes. So for the example, at the previous appeal, the applicant spoke briefly, his daughter spoke briefly, his attorney spoke briefly, and they filled that 10-minute time frame. So,
So it's 10 minutes at the.
No. That was the previous allowance that we had given that appellant.
Yeah.
But for this specific ordinance amendment, it would be 20 minutes for the initial appeal to present their case, and then 10 minutes to rebut.
For about it. And then we're gonna put a provision in there about the,
Add 10 minutes for the planning commission to explain their case.
And then I think it should be equal, and that you should be allowed to rebut. I mean, if you want to make it 10 minutes and a 5-minute rebuttal, but conversation happens and then you're left there not able to say anything to what is mentioned about a subject. It just seems, that would be my recommendation. We've been appointed by the council. I would think they might want to know what we were thinking.
yeah, that's gonna be in the motion and what the staff prepares.
Yeah, we can make it consistent.
I believe that, if the mayor has a question or, likes the way the planning commission is going, they would let you speak as much as they'd like, but,
That's
I
what
mean,
was, that's what,
I mean.
That would be
could see
nice. I agree.
Everybody gets 20 minutes and 20 minutes, and then the city council meetings last than 4 hours.
well, and this is only for an appeal. Okay, so 10 minutes. I'm saying it's awkward to not be able to even speak back. If they have a rebuttal and you don't have a rebuttal.
What's the current time? What's the current time that they have to appeal? How much time?
Presently, according to our city attorney, the appellant has 10 minutes.
And that's not long enough?
In that specific case, it ended up being long enough.
Yeah,
But
I think 10
it
minutes.
depends.
10 minutes seems a long time to me.
And they're all case specific.
Right. So they could take 20 and then the council says one thing, or, the city council says, and then they can come back and rebut for another 10 minutes?
Yes, according to what we have presented here.
What's their rebuttal time now? 5?
There is no rebuttal time now. Unless the council specifically asks questions of the applicant and requests more clarification, there is no set rebuttal time.
Well, having been faced with that situation on the other side of the table several times, I'm glad to see this being taken care of, and it's being codified. The thing I like about it being codified is it takes it out of the political arena.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's, to me, is probably the most important thing. The time, 20 minutes can be 15 minutes or whatever, but the most important thing to me is it's codified, which takes it out of the political arena and takes the pressure off of us.
And it's clearly spelled
That-
out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I agree. That is very important. And I think the time could be shorter than this, but.
We can can we recommend shorter time?
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
can recommend anything you'd like.
Well. I
It can
think
be 10 minutes and 10 minutes.
To me, 15 minutes and 10 minutes would be what I would
Yeah,
recommend.
20 is long.
It's up, whoever makes the motion is welcome to make the motion.
If a motion includes giving the planning commission up to 10 minutes to present the explanation of why it denied the project, I would suggest that a number 4 be added under A1 as well, to give the zoning administrator up to 10 minutes to explain the project denial to the planning commissioners as well, for parallel construction, if you will.
Absolutely.
Whoa. You mean the staff doesn't have an opportunity to make a presentation today, now? I mean, the staff can't present the project and say, this is why we did what we did, or anything like that?
That's totally up to the discretion of the chair.
See, so
Yes.
that makes it political. That's why it should be codified.
Yeah, well, it depends on what you codify too, or don't codify.
Right.
So in this recommendation, should we include the staff also has the same opportunity?
It's up
I
to
think
you.
it should be zoning administrator specific.
Okay,
If it
that's-
would be an applicant's appeal, if it was a staff denial, then it would be an applicant's appeal to the planning commission.
And that's the 20. And they would get the 20 minutes to appeal to,
Planning Commission.
because that's something that we haven't seen, so they're just appealing staff's decision to not approve a variance or a.
Right.
Or something.
Or not, a variance would go to Planning Commission, but if
Oh,
it
I'm
was
sorry.
something as, I don't know,
A parking reduction
There we
or
go.
something like that. Yeah.
and they didn't like staff's decision, they could appeal that to the Planning Commission. And then if it's a Planning Commission decision, then it gets appealed to City Council. But for the Planning Commission appeal, I think staff presenting it would be the zoning administrator that would be able to state the case.
We understood. You did good.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff or discussion? I don't know if I opened this thing as a public hearing or not.
Does not
you-
need to be a public
I- I
hearing.
didn't-
Not a public hearing.
that's
Do you have
why I
enough
didn't.
information to rewrite it for, okay, that we, for all of this, and then you could reduce the time? I don't know,
We just need your recommendation on time.
on time, yeah. I mean, 10 minutes is a good time.
I go for 15.
Okay,
I've been in the,
okay.
too many times, and I'm very, I'm not, I don't feel 20 is needed, but 15 to me is an absolute need. Projects can be very complicated,
Yes,
okay? And we've got projects coming down the road here that can be very complicated, and trying to explain the issues of why we did what we did. And the applicant is faced with the same, in defending a complicated thing, need the time. I don't think 20 minutes is needed. Personally, I'll go with whatever the commission wants to go for, but I think 15 is more than enough. But 20 is okay.
okay.
Any other discussion? I don't know if I opened, but I will close. Well, we didn't have, it doesn't have to be a hearing, that's why I didn't do it. Anyway, I'll close the discussion. And ready for a motion. Staff understand what we want?
We do.
Okay.
It's a good thing staff
The
understands.
motion could be, we make a motion to have staff do what we want. Oh, boy. Being chair is starting to get to be fun.
Whoops, no, you're fine.
So we do actually need a motion and a
Yes.
second and a
We
vote.
need a motion and a second and a vote. And I'm ready for a motion. Since you know what you want to try and take a crack at the motion?
Don or me?
You,
Oh, I
Oh.
can't.
not Don.
Okay, sorry. I motion that we recommend to this ordinance that doesn't have a number. I don't know if I have to identify it. That the planning commission, no, this has to be really specific, huh? If I make a motion like that?
I think if you start with figuring out what times you want, then you can, for each person, and then you can just say that's the motion.
Let's do the time thing first
Okay.
and see if that, where we agreed at on that. So make a motion on the time, whatever you feel you want to do.
I make a motion that the time for the appeals in this recommended ordinance be up to 15 minutes to present their case and another 10 minutes, so that's the same, to deliver a rebuttal, but reduced to 15 minutes.
Do we have a second on that?
Did you want to include the planning commission?
I do that at this time,
With the addition of.
with the addition of the planning commission being given up to 15 minutes to present their case.
Okay. I hear a-
And the zoning administrator being allowed up to 15 minutes to present their case. And what about any rebuttals for those or not?
No.
Just no rebuttals, just zoning administrator and planning commission have 15 minutes and that's it.
I think that's enough.
Okay,
Personally.
okay.
We have
So
a
we are
second?
striking the rebuttal language in your motion?
For the planning commission and
planning
the zoning
commission.
administrator, we're keeping it for the appellant.
So what
Okay.
I have, just so that everyone's clear, I said, the motion is to allow the appellant to have 15 minutes to present the case, 10 minutes to rebuttal, with the addition of allowing the planning commission to have up to 15 minutes to present their case, and if it's a zoning administrator, also being allowed up to 15 minutes to present their case.
Correct.
Okay, we got a motion. I haven't heard a second. Don't tell me it's gonna die without a second.
I'll second.
Please don't do that to me. Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we vote? Okay, that's part of our recommendation to the city council. You want to continue the rest of it?
That was,
Huh?
that was the whole thing.
That was the whole thing?
Yeah.
Motion carries with 5 yeses and 2
No, no.
absent.
We need a motion,
Motion carries with 5 yeses and 2 absent.
but that was only having to do with time, not the entire ordinance. We need a motion about the ordinance.
The
We're
motion
making a
as,
recommendation to them.
motion as I understood it was this is a recommendation to the city council with the time limits and the
Addition of,
additions that you have recommended.
So
So,
you don't think we need to mention the code at all?
we will, that's where we'll put it in the code.
Yeah.
The draft code.
Staff rules, as usual. All right, I think that was it. Now, we have, some reports and presentations and things. Staff want to give us a heads up of what's coming on the next part, and then whoever's going to do it, do it.
Mr. Chairman, I think there is an item 5 having to do with the history of the
Is that
olive
what the numbers on
orchard,
it?
the Fog Olive Orchard, yeah.
yeah, and you have a handout there with Edmund Fogg on the front, and then a picture of the monuments too. So if I could begin, I'll just quickly go through this brief history of the importance of this olive grove where these apartments are.
Go for it.
Okay.
Time's up. You only got 15 minutes.
Edmund Fogg was certainly a man of Oroville. And this picture of him I could just not resist to share with you because this is the most adorable man I've seen. Anyway, he came to Oroville when he was 8 years old. He was born in 49. His family actually bought the house that would have been right behind the Butte County Law Library. There was a home there, 1336 Oak, and it is not there now, but that's where he lived with his family and later on lived there most of his life. He was actually later on responsible for getting the library here into the city of Oroville that was right next door to him. His father owned the boot and shoe business on the south side of Montgomery and Myers at Huntoon, between Myers and Huntoon, and he worked there when he was young. It's opposite where the St. Nicholas Hotel would have been, which is now the parking lot. There's nothing there now on Montgomery. But where his father's boot and shoe business is, that building probably is still there. When he was young, he was a printer's devil for the Oroville Democrat newspaper on Montgomery, and that's when they had little boys who would help move and clean all the type.
What is a printer's devil?
They would move and clean the type on the printing presses, and so their hands would get really dirty with ink, and that's why they were called printer's devils, because they were dirty. And he did that, and he would deliver the paper once a week. He had some other jobs that were right here. Everything you read about him is right here in this town. He was very local. His first job as an adult was at the Rideout Smith and Company Bank. He was a cashier there. That's on the corner of Montgomery and Myers. That is now where, I call it the Bank of Italy, but it's the Eagles Club, I think now,
Yeah.
that's there. So he started there at 19 as a cashier. The bank manager died 4 years later, and at age 23, he became the manager of the bank, and he ran it for the next 30 years. The bank's main business was gold, as that was the main strong industry in Oroville at that time. You can see in the ad right there, the highest price paid for gold dust. He would make gold bricks. The first gold brick that he made was worth $10,000, and it was too heavy to lift. So after that, he had a limit of only $5,000 worth in the gold brick. They actually had a $100,000 in value gold brick that was kept there to secure a loan. It was kind of fun to think about that. They didn't say the weight in the paper. I read all these in the old papers. So it didn't say the weight, just the value. So whatever gold was an ounce around the turn of the century, 1900, that's would be what it weighed. Hydraulic mining ended. The gold rush hit. It was basically stopped because people didn't want hydraulic mining to happen anymore. It was damaging the streams and the agricultural areas. So that was a death knell to Oroville. Fogg described it as Oroville getting a black eye. So being a manager of the bank, that was a huge hit to the economy and to everyone. There were people who had invested so much money, and now it was just over. And they were all going to lose money. So Fogg wanted to encourage everyone and encouraged his employer to encourage the investors to start investing in orange production, commercial orange production. Most homes in Oroville had orange trees in their yards, up to 12, and they would actually sell the oranges. They were starting to grow navel oranges, and they would sell the oranges to San Francisco and places abroad. So he thought, we can make this commercial. And he put together a group of investors, 20 investors, that would each have 100 shares in the Grove. And it was the beginning of the first orange industry in Oroville and the first citrus association in Northern California. Right at the beginning, he wanted to invest in olives. And he asked his group of investors if they would split the original 40-acre grove in half, with half in olives and half in oranges. And no one wanted to do that, just one man, who he ended up going into a separate partnership with on this property, which is where the Olive Grove apartments are. But this was their separate investment that would be all in olives, 40 acres, and it was McLaughlin, Fogg, and rumored that Edison had invested in it also, because he had some money in the area. That, and you can see this map here, which this map is in 1898, and you can see exactly the river, the downtown. He had at his olive grove, he began to get into olive production. They had a little pickling facility and a pressing plant. He had 27 Chinese workers there. You can see the Table Mountain Bridge, which they called the Feather River Bridge. And they originally called it the Thermalito Olive Farm. So he was working at the bank and being pretty successful in his little on-the-side olive industry, and then entered Frida Eamon. She was not a local native to Oroville. She came here in '92 as a widow. Her husband had died. She came here to be with her son. I don't think he lived in Oroville. I think he was in Marysville. They were basically bankrupt. I think they might even officially declared bankruptcy. Her son gave her 20 acres of an abandoned olive grove in Marysville. And she got into olive production and making olive oil, and that started the Eamon Olive Company. And she, as most of you know, she figured out how to take olives that you get from a tree that taste absolutely horrible and pickle them and cure them so they actually taste good in a commercial fashion. Yes, before, people have been doing it since the Greeks, but it took a long time for it to happen, and it could not ever be quick and commercial, and you couldn't make a profit on it. So she figured out the way, with a lot of tenacity, to really make a successful olive company, and she did. She needed some more olives because she was selling more than she could produce. So her son knew about Mr. Fogg, who had the 40 acres, and he actually leased to her he sold the olives to her and leased the pickling plant and the Chinese workers, and she ran her production out of there until she built her own Eamon Canning Company here in Oroville. She tried to buy from Mr. Fogg, tried to buy the orchard, and he didn't want to sell to her. Years later, in 1915, she sent an agent to the bank to kind of secretly work out a deal to buy the orchard. And it worked, and he agreed to sell the orchard, and then found out, and I don't know how this all happened, but found out that it was actually Frida Eamon who was buying the orchard. So
The
she,
business is called a surrogate. That's what we call it.
oh, when you send someone to go negotiate for you?
Right.
Okay.
But you have to have someone that you trust, because you put it in, and then they turn it over to you. That way,
Okay.
the people you're trying to keep away from, knowledge-wise,
Yes.
have no clue.
Yeah.
And so you have to have.
Oh, okay.
It works.
Okay, I wasn't
Obviously,
sure.
She knew what she was doing.
Yes, she knew. And the price that she paid for the Fogg Olive Grove, which they said was somewhere around $50,000, was the highest price that had ever been paid for an olive grove in the history of California. And it was considered to be the finest olive grove in California also.
And that's the entire property?
That is what she bought from Fogg. She bought some other olive groves also. Yes, $50,000 for this corner.
Yeah.
I bet you paid a little more than $50,000 for that corner there.
Big corner.
So, yes, it's a beautiful corner. And then the last paper I had really has to do with our developer here, who is willing to put up a monument, because you remember the old signs, the two monuments, Fogg Olive Grove and Eamon Olive Grove. I think it's interesting they didn't take down the Fogg Olive Grove sign, or that monument. It was both of those together. And we can let him speak on what his plans are. He has plans for the development to do a monument to Fogg and Eamon.
I won't explain how we got hurt. Tell us what you hope to do. It will match what I want you to do.
Push it, yeah.
Testing. All right. There's actually, it looks like there's 3 monuments out there. And when we took over the property, 2 of them had been knocked over, one broken in half, and the other one cracked in half. And if we try and move it, we're positive it'll be broken in half. Just some photos of the 2 that are destroyed. But there is one still standing, and it's been graffitied a bunch. Currently, it's been painted blue and gold, but prior it had a bunch of different markings on it. And we've started conversations over the last couple days with Larry Tracy, I believe it is, to have the monument, the existing one that's out there, relocated to a safe location that he has.
The Eamon House?
He'd said a location in, I'm going to mess this up, but I believe it's Lincoln. It is to a house of historical significance to the monument, to locate it there and have it at that house.
Frida Eamon's house.
Yeah. And then what we would like to do is to get a monument of similar size and make to match this one that is set in front of our community center building. So as you approach, you have this monument. I have yet to start talks with a granite company that would cut that and make that. But that is the intent, to put a like monument that explains the Fogg and then Olive Grove. And then when you go inside, we would work with the Historical Society to put together a collection of newspaper collage and information on one of our community center walls, to where the folks that are in there using the laundry facilities, using the game room, meeting with the leasing office, if they're hanging around waiting, they can look at the wall and learn a little bit about history of the property.
Yeah.
That's our plans to date. I continue to plan to work with Tracy and anyone else in the Historical Society that wants to partake. We're rather open-minded to it. Cost is a consideration, but we do have some money set aside from the initial meetings with the Planning Commission, not Planning Commission, with Design
Development
Review.
Review,
Development
yeah.
Review. We initially set aside money to make sure that we got this monument figured out. So we do have some money there and all intentions of putting up I don't want to say a replica, but a similar monument out in front of our community center that will draw attention to folks that come to the property.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm really worried about moving this. We've started talks with a company to try and move this monument, and I'm worried about trying to move it and not break it. I almost want to make no promises. I'm going to do my best, but we're going to try and figure it out and get it to a safe spot. The other, if it gets to where we're, everybody concedes that it's too scary to move, we can look at our current plans and where it's located and how it might be able to stay put. And we could sandblast it and clean it up and get it back to white. I'm open to all ideas, and I'm not closed-minded to anything on it. We want to make sure we preserve the history. I'm a history buff as well, so I think it's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't deteriorate the stone. Yep.
It's probably very close to where it is now, because they don't move very far.
No.
Right?
No.
And I can see the tree, the palm tree.
And I'm pretty sure it's the southernmost one, which was the southern post of the gate entrance. So. Yeah.
Okay. Project. Back on that again.
We did discuss project denials quite a bit, but when the grocery store at Montgomery and Feather River went to the city council for review, they reversed the planning commission's denial. But when the Stott billboard went in front of the planning commission, the city council, a vote to approve the planning commission's denial failed. And they were then going to stop discussing that, much like what happened here for that same project. The city attorney stopped the process and told the city council not to leave the applicant hanging, but that there had to be an active vote of some kind to make a definitive, take a definitive position. So they ended up voting to overturn the planning commission's recommendation. Here at the Stott billboard, the vote to approve the project failed, and then all discussion ended. So the applicant ended up getting sort of a tacit denial, but not an official denial of the project, which they appealed. So we looked at the requirements for planning commissions and how to deny a project. There is a packet there in front of you that discusses denying or continuing a project, and you continued the project tonight for the Side and Glance property. Findings are required for a denial. And the reason is if a project is denied and there ends up being legal action taken, then the Planning Commission has to make findings explaining a reason for their denial. So in future, it is not sufficient just to not approve a project, but to actively deny the project with a subsequent motion or something like that, and then findings to go along with that. Because the planning commission's decision should be supported in case there is legal action. And if there is legal action and there's no findings and there's no reason given for a project denial or non-approval, then the city would likely lose a case like that. So it's important to make findings if there's a project denial.
So if we denied, when we denied the liquor store, which it was called then, on the corner, we would have made a motion to deny the liquor store, and we would give our reason why, that there was a saturation of alcohol permits in the area. Is that what you mean by finding, or does it have to be an actual code?
Yes, there's some discussion in the handout that I've given you having to do with findings and what's a good finding and what's not. Something sometime as simple as saying it's not in the public interest or it's not considered safe, something like that. A little
Okay.
more than that, but
Okay.
at least one finding.
Isn't that what we did for that one?
You did not.
In the discussion, that we talked about all those issues, but we didn't codify them in the
Yeah,
sense.
there
okay?
was no reason given for
Huh?
the denial, no reason given associated with the
But I'm
denial.
saying, in
yeah.
the discussion, we talked about why we were denying it, but in the motion, we didn't
Right.
we didn't codify what we were talking about, and that's what
So
you're
that's
saying.
what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's,
But we didn't make a motion to deny.
no, we made a motion to deny, but we didn't say why.
I think we made a motion to accept it, and then we all voted no.
Yeah,
So I think that's what we should not do.
right.
Someone should make a motion to deny it.
If someone makes a motion to deny, the motion should be to deny because.
Right.
That's the operative word there, because.
Okay, so we didn't do that last time. We just denied it based on what they wanted.
Yes.
They wanted the liquor license. We said, no, we don't think it belongs there.
Correct. And then the city council almost made the same mistake until corrected by the city attorney. So.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll get it.
Any other
Does
questions?
it have to be a legal finding, or can it just be, we don't want another liquor store here?
It should be based in code of some kind, protecting the public health and safety. It shouldn't just be, we don't want another liquor store. It would
Okay,
be,
so
we
then
don't
we
want
would-
another
so if we
liquor
said
store
based upon-
because there's an overconcentration.
Okay,
You could
so
say
we,
that.
yeah, we may want to deny because of an overconcentration of liquor sales in this area. And that's good.
Yes.
Or whatever additional reasons, like too close to where a lot of kids are gonna be playing. We talked about that.
It
Yes.
sounded like that came up with the city council also. You can't deny that because you would be having to deny everything in the future.
Yes, precedent setting was a important point that the city attorney made as well. So it had to be project specific.
Yeah, so so I didn't quite get the point the city attorney was making. It was project specific. So I think that precedent, it sounds like he was just saying consider that, but it wasn't de facto. Because that would mean you could never deny anything. If every time you deny it sets precedent, and that would mean that you could,
They're saying that,
We had a lot of signs that were too high, and most of the commission did not like that. But since they approved one, we pretty much had to approve the rest, even though it didn't sit well with most of the commission. So if you told a liquor store on one corner they couldn't, or a store on one corner they couldn't sell liquor, if a restaurant or something came in across the street that you liked more, you couldn't approve them either.
in the same location, because the reasons would be,
It's in the same area.
Okay.
That's what I believe.
but it would be different for a restaurant because those are on premise as opposed to off premise, so that could be a reason.
I guess if you could separate it, but I don't know how well you could separate it.
So, Wes, that liquor store or that convenience store down here, Feather River, if we denied that, their liquor license, but then Safeway wanted to come in across the street at the proposed
Yes.
Gateway Center, if that was the case, then we would really have we'd have to find a different reason to not allow Safeway to do it?
Correct, yeah.
So if we approve this guy, we'd have to approve Safeway or vice versa.
That's why it's good to have stated reason in the motion.
Stated finding.
Yeah.
It makes it project, individual project.
Okay.
Are we supposed to be doing anything about this, a motion or anything?
In the future, no, it's information for the future.
Okay. Item 7, directors' reports, plural.
Yes, we have several items to discuss, and then I guess Don has one or two. No?
Wes, I just wanted to mention, make sure, I told you, but make sure the staff knows about the spelling error.
Oh, yes.
It's in the resolution. You don't want a spelling error in the resolution.
On page 58 of your packets, the title of the resolution says there shall be approvable apartments, so we're going to correct that.
I read that. I had to read it 3 times to make sure I was seeing what I was seeing.
So we'll correct that resolution before it moves forward. The one of the items that staff would like to bring up here is something that's been concerning the Planning Commission for several projects now, and there's been quite a lot of discussion about nuisances, the nuisance code, code compliance, what authority the Planning Commission might have to deny a project because it's a nuisance. It was a factor in the denial of the Stott billboard because of the maintenance question of the landscaping. So this is, this was discussed as well tonight during the whether there'd be lots of vagrancy or concentration of folks in front of the new carniceria or not. So other discussions have included inadequate building maintenance, sign maintenance, etc. Lots of health and safety topics. So I have given you a copy of our city's nuisance code and have taken the liberty of talked to Ron Belser, who is the head of our code compliance function, and he is willing to come to our next Planning Commission meeting and conduct a workshop and have sort of a give and take to talk about the authorities that the city has to deal with nuisances and the process for that, and what the Planning Commission can or cannot do to assist in nuisance abatement throughout the city. And this seems to be a hot topic amongst the commissioners. So if that's okay with the commission, then we'll schedule maybe a half an hour for a workshop on code compliance at the next meeting. When in the agenda? I guess I would suggest before, just to give the code compliance off, or at the beginning of the meeting, after the meeting is gavelled in. But to give the code compliance folks a chance to leave, after this. Depends on what other agenda items we have.
Is this because we're getting overly aggressive on our code enforcement, or is this?
This is informational.
Because of my questions about dumpsters
Well,
and
not just
trash
yours,
enclosures and
but
abandoned cars and
other concerns, yes, that are raised, and this commission has a definite interest in improving Oroville and the extent to which you folks can individually and together
where
do that.
Where does it start? I mean, can it start with us to help fix this, or is that what this is going to be all about with Ron? Is, do we go online and fill out a complaint form and say, hey,
that's certainly going to be part of it, is to initiate a code compliance action, there has to be a complaint form.
Because there's new code enforcement, there's more now, right? So
Yes, there's 4 code enforcement staff right now.
They've doubled in size.
Awesome.
Right. Because so maybe off topic, but where do we go from here with existing issues, such as the 7-Eleven down by my office? Their trash enclosure is cyclone, dented, leaning over, broken wood stakes in the fence, and then they have another dumpster that's alongside of it. That's not even in an enclosure, and there's trash blows down the street every day of the week, and it's never addressed. And I mean, I'm sure Ecology, they lift it, they shake it, they throw it down, and they split, and whatever falls on the ground falls on the ground. But I mean, do we have any authority at all to go to these existing customers or the existing property owners and say, hey, you got to fix this?
The planning commission is not likely to have any authority like that unless an item comes before them. But that is a perfect candidate for a complaint form, and they have to act on the complaints. But there are a number of things, activities going on having to do with homeless, having to do with vagrancy, having to do with shopping cart, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems that even if the planning commission doesn't have some sort of a direct authority to intervene in something, we might learn how the planning commission can engage, more effectively.
But filling out and submitting a code enforcement complaint online or coming to City Hall and filling one out is the best way to get that complaint addressed. So if you see something, say something. Fill out the complaint form.
Okay.
Would it be possible, whatever he produces, be emailed to us
Ahead of time?
ahead of time?
Certainly.
So that we're not sitting here trying to read and listen at the same time. Is that possible? I don't know how the other commissioners feel about it.
There
but
may not be an actual, lengthy presentation. It may be more of a give and take for you folks to ask your questions.
I'm just saying, if it's in writing, if he's,
Yeah.
then I'd like to see it. If not, fine, we'll just beat the devil out of it verbally. That it?
No.
Oh, you got more? Gee, I almost got away with it. Almost.
Sorry, this is just for information. On the council agenda, August 3rd, will not be the side and glance item. We will table that until the planning commission is done with its recommendations. But the appeal item will be on the August 3rd agenda. We'll modify we'll add the planning commission's recommendation. Also on the council agenda for August 3rd is a contract with a company called Housing Tools, which will update the general plan housing element. That is something that the state requires us to do and to submit to them by July 15th, 2022. So there will be several public and upcoming meetings having to do with the housing element. So you folks will all be invited to participate, and if desired, since there's a general plan, we'll be scheduling a presentation in front of the Planning Commission with a proposed new housing element, and also asking you folks to provide input along the way. We have a new owner at the 70-acre Martin Ranch project, which is up north of the canal at the very north end of the city. We may be moving to annex the other 120 acres that's up there where Table Mountain comes and converges with Highway 70. That might be a move to annex and to develop a major subdivision and Hmong temple at the same time.
Wes, just to give you a heads up, one of the biggest discussions and cost-wise and everything else is the extension of the sewer from the project across the canal and all the way down where it's supposed to connect, and the size of it was a big issue. And so you just be aware that you're dealing with a major cost thing, and I don't know if they're aware of it.
Staff is aware.
Huh?
Staff and the applicant are aware of that project, and it's being addressed.
Aware of the
The sewer
cost.
extension and the cost.
Yeah,
It would
okay.
be a multi-year phased project, but yes, staff is aware.
Great. I should have known better.
So another item that has been announced at the city council is vehicle miles traveled, which is a new analysis that has to be included in any CEQA analysis in any environmental document. The threshold for significance for a project, a housing project in particular, is 10 units. So any housing project over 10 units is, according to the recommendation of the state, a significant impact, and therefore will trigger an environmental impact report and/or a statement of overriding considerations. We have several housing projects of 100 units, 150 units, all of that are under consideration. And we are loath to require each of those applicants to do their own EIR. So instead, our strategy is likely to be revising our general plan circulation/transportation element to include this vehicle miles traveled analysis in the element and in the supplemental EIR that would go along with it. That's probably a 9 or 10 month process, but at the end, we can end up doing a programmatic significance threshold or statement of overriding considerations that will apply to the entire city. And a statement of overriding considerations would be, yes, we recognize that this project will create vehicle miles traveled because there's going to be new houses and they have cars and they're going to go in and out. Usually 9 trips per day per household is the typical ratio there. But it is in the interest of the city to override this environmental consideration and approve the project anyway. We're in a rural area, and there's really no easy way to mitigate for vehicle trips from a new project. There's no transit-oriented development around. There's not a very frequent bus service. There's no BART. There's nothing like that that exists in urban areas. So this is a strategy, and we're going to be developing this strategy over the next several months. We also have a greenhouse gas emissions in our climate action plan, inventory in our climate action plan, and that may have to be adjusted as well, given lots of events since 2015 since that was done. So that may be part of the process. So I hope I haven't over-explained, and I hope I've done clear enough on that. It's a complicated
Personally, I'd rather
topic.
be over-explained than under-explained, because you lose a lot in under-explaining. But we can always tell you to shut up, too.
Well, I'll shut up on that one now unless there's questions.
It seems like it's a good move in downtowns like this neighborhood. You don't need a car. I mean, you don't need to drive. Your miles driven are very limited in comparison to being out in the suburbs. So I kind of get the idea behind it.
Yes.
A more walkable city.
A housing development downtown here, there's lots of shopping, there's lots of employment opportunities, and so the vehicle miles traveled for a housing development here would be a lot less.
Yes.
Per unit than it would be out at Vista del Oro, for instance.
Well, you have, like Sacramento, when they put in the light rail. I mean, that's a huge thing, traffic-wise. you know, especially when they extended it up to Folsom. You know, so there's no way we can do things
No.
like that.
I just like to see downtown redeveloped and reused and improved. And that's another good reason to do it, because it's good environmentally.
To me, it sounds like California's killing housing when they need it.
That's, CEQA has.
That's the other side of it.
CEQA has killed housing, yes. So the strategy we're pursuing has been done by the city of Murrieta and the city of Vallejo, or is it Vacaville?
Vacaville.
Is also doing the same, adopting the same strategy. So it hasn't been tested in court, but this seems to be the best and most logical one for us.
Next item?
DRC meeting will be August 12th, which is Thursday at 1:30 in the afternoon. We have one item expected, and that is an alcohol use permit to reopen the wine bar on Myers.
Ooh, good.
You alcohol drinkers, I swear.
It seems like maybe one is the alcohol related.
Lately, yes.
What date?
The 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Speaking of that, what's it called? Moving into the Copa. Will that come into here?
Nori,
Yeah. Are they up for, do they have a license? Are they using the Copa's license, or are they coming through here? Or?
I don't know, I'm not sure about that. We'll have to look further into that. I know they're doing their tenant improvements on the building at this time, but I haven't heard what their plans are with their license. So they may have acquired the Dacopa license so that they can retain the license for their current location. Because they'll also be, from my understanding, is keeping that other location open and converting it to some other use.
Thank you.
So the wine bar is hoping to open by the Salmon Festival. So Connor is a close family friend of the owners, and so he'll be expediting the process. That's all
We'll
I have.
see.
That's all I have.
Depends on how complete their application is.
They picked it up today, so we'll probably get it Monday.
Okay, is that it for item 7? We're on to item 8, commission reports. Anybody have anything of interest that the commission might want to hear about?
How are we getting another commissioner? How are we getting another commissioner? Because Tammy is not a commissioner anymore, right?
So we have not officially received a resignation from Commissioner Flicker. I will be working on that over this next month because I know that was something that she intended on doing. But I will be following up with her. In the meantime, I've had an application out or an advertisement out for the Planning Commission, the Housing Loan Advisory Commission, the Citizens Oversight Commission. There may be one more that I'm missing off the top of my head, but for openings on all of those, the period for receiving those applications has ended. So they will be going to the executive committee for then recommendation to the council for approval to fill the seats.
Great, so you had applications.
I received 4
Okay.
applications for the various commissions and committees. And so there was some interest.
Okay.
And so those, like I said, they'll go to the executive committee, who will then make a recommendation to council, and then council will either accept their recommendation or make another alternative motion to fill the seats.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I forget where it was, but in the packet, it says the meeting starts at 7 o'clock, somewhere in that packet, and I forget where it is. I read it and I forgot to make a copy and give it to you, but somewhere it talks about what we do and the meeting starts or something. It says 7 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock.
Sorry, in the agenda packet or?
in the stuff that I received, you know, the packet, I think it had to do with, when we meet, explaining our meeting times and all that. There's a spot that says 7 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock.
We'll find it and correct it.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn the meeting, and the next meeting is August 26th. Thanks to all of you.
Meeting we've had in a long time.
Yeah, I think she's got she's taking another spot somewhere. Yeah.
Mute all mics. And then turn off the camera.